difficult task in picking out the supporter of the year for Tipperary. They added it all up, and I know they spent a long time at night discussing it. Where they discussed it, I don't know. But I do know that they picked out a gentleman who never missed a game through the entire season of last year, to their knowledge. And he's a man who's followed Tipperary hurling through thick and thin, down through the years, as long as I can remember. And the man concerned today is Frankie Torben, or known as Sasha Torben. Right. We'll put you up alongside that league cup. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you want to come call, smart. Alright. Send you down. Right then. Sasha, up this way, right? Like that. I think it was a pistol or something.
For our first award, and I think you will all be pleased with the man who was getting it, because I know when I was growing up, we always looked at him in awe, because he was a great hurler. He was a man during the great years of the Swan, a man who, I suppose, down through the years hurled on the best hurlers, not only in Tipperary, but in Kenny, Wexford, and anywhere else in Cork there were hurlers. And it gives me great pleasure to announce that name this evening, celebrated name in Carrick-On-SUIR, Mickey Fleming.
Well done, Mickey.
Yeah.
Well done.
Just want to get that cup in there.
Bring it over.
That's right there.
Come here.
Right then.
Okay. Thanks.
Now we'll be taking a short break. After that we'll be showing us some highlights of the personalities that we've picked out for 1988. And after that we'll be taking a look at the golden era of Tipperary hurling that will bring us from 1964 to 71. So there's a short break for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Keep it on me, boy. Keep it on me. Tommy down. Don't be a mess there. Well, target. I'm sending the message to Tommy down. Well, Jargon, you'll be here. Sit down. Let me alone. No, we're going to talk to your cousin. Right, Sean, smile. Show all the water men together.
Take it in there beside you.
Go in, go in.
Well, you said that from the when I'm sitting there.
You're right.
No, I meant like you know his memories from all the matches.
Yeah?
You're right, Johnny Quigley.
You're welcome. What's your name? Trash, isn't it?
You need to flag up there.
Hey.
Where's the cameraman gone? No, Michael John.
That would be an old Rangi.
Oh, yes, now.
Christ.
You never thought that, did you? Stand up here.
No.
Wait a minute. Into Bobby. Bobby, come up here. Come on.
You can't go in.
I do know. Eddie, may you take it? You didn't make it, Jen Christie. When you make it, come back.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks a million.
Vicky asked me even an everything. No.
Pigeon, smile. You still have to do it twice.
I mean, horse and jockey. Yeah, they're captains. People here today, they're all hurling men, and I think I read somewhere that hurling transcends all barriers, and indeed it does. And looking back in 1988, we came to the conclusion about 2 men on the Tipperary team. We could have picked 10, we could have picked anybody, but we felt that one man, certainly throughout the league campaign and in the early days of the championship, and particularly when controversy arose, proved himself a great hurling man, a great leader of men, and that man was the Tipperary captain of the National League, Pa O'Neill. Indeed, I'm sure everybody here today are very pleased, we're all very pleased that he came down with the 2 cups, and we haven't seen those cups here since Mixed Road Club for many years previously. on, Willie. Captain Harps will look after us in a minute. Okay, Willie. Right. I think we're okay. I call on Mr. Joe Foley of Tipperary Crystal, who've kindly sponsored the thing here. Joe, could you hold that piece of glass up? Because that's in the form of a hurling ball. A unique piece of glass.
We modelled this particular ball on the one that you last saw going into the net. And next year we hope that one will go into the net a half a dozen times in the All-Ireland final. And I'd now like to present to the pair, on behalf of Tipperary Crystal,
I'd just like to thank Tipperary Crystal for presenting me with this beautiful schlitter. And I hope I do go into the net a good few times next year. And whoever puts it into it, I hope they win it anyway. But I'd like to thank you for asking us today here, all the players and myself. And thanks again for everything.
Well, the player that Tipperary, again I repeat, the committee voted as Tipperary's Man of the Year, and in many places, if any of you read the Sunday press, I think Liam Hayes was commenting on the Footballer of the Year. But I think in many places for his outstanding ability, all the superlatives, all the lovely things have been said about this hurler. He certainly brought grace, beauty and skill and sportsmanship throughout the whole league campaign, throughout the Munster Championship campaign, and I could safely say that Bax, even looking at that film, didn't treat him too kindly. Need I say more? Nick Ross English.
You all right? Do we go back? I want to get the order. One more, just one more. Right, next.
Jimmy Doyle, Mick Roach, Jimmy Ryan, PJ Ryan, just to name a few, Tony Nealon, and I can go on for the older generations. And I must say, looking at those tapes yesterday evening with David here, we're calling him David Putnam now after yesterday, they're in a good state of condition, and mind you, the fellas concerned are wearing extremely well. So we go back now, we take it up in 1964. And the people who brought them, there were 3 members of the DAVIN team on that, and I would like to call on them now to make suitable presentations. Jimmy Ryan, of course, he played in the '68 final, and of course he still looks extremely young, I must confess. A little eager beaver then, as he is now for the game of hurling. So we'd like to make a presentation to Jimmy Ryan. We're waiting for Paul Jimmy Truck, has he made his way up here. Been written about him, has been written, has been said. And I remember a long time ago, the late Jimmy Hensey, then throw player on him, said to me, Mick Roach will play a game sometime that people will never forget. Now most people here have different memories of that game. Some will say it was the '65 final in Clonmel against Thurles Sarsfields. Others will say that was the day in Killarney in '71 and the wind-swept, rain-drenched pitch in Killarney when he defied everything that Limerick could throw at him. I think if they had a treaty stone that day, he'd have pucked it back up to the other end. But I think let us talk and go back to the people who write about the games and who know a little bit more than we do. And I'd like to quote you from the words of Raymond Smith's book of hurling. He says, Dan Quigley was the hurler of the year in 1968. But what do people remember from 68? Who in their minds was the hurler of the year? They never speak about that season nor mention that match without mentioning the majesty of Mick Roche's hurling. I'm amazed, he said, that one could dominate a game so completely, but even more, that Roche's hurling was not honoured in the records of all time. On that Sunday in September, he joined the small select few like Christy Ring in 46 and Bobby Record in 1954 to give two outstanding examples who in their time have managed to take one All-Ireland and dominate it to such an extent. It became their honour, and the memory left would never be erased from our minds. And that man was Mick Roche.
One more. Great.
Elijah's killing me. Where's Jimmy Ryan? It's coming. It's coming. Okay, thanks very much.
Jimmy, look at the camera. No, it doesn't always doesn't it? Slide.
Look a bit this way, Jimmy, right? A little bit this way. A little bit this way. One more. One more.
Jimmy, you want one more?
We'll go back. All right, Jimmy. You're right there. Look this way, Jimmy. This way, man. All right, go ahead.
No talk or no discussion of Tipperary hurling or hurling in any other county. The next person we're going to call on, his name would be in any county. He's in, as they say, the calendar of saints of hurling. And it's interesting to note that he captained Tipperary, I think, in a minor final in 1954, the same year that Christy Ring won his All-Ireland. And 4 years later, that young man was on an All-Ireland winning team with Tipperary. And he also played on the Munster team with the great Christy Ring. And it's also interesting to note that the said gentleman concerned, Ring looked at him one day and he saw him taking a free, and Ring was the established star, and this man was just, as they say, making his way. And Ring said, he's got something, I better study his technique. He did, and Ring admitted quite openly that this man had taught him a fair bit about free taking. Everybody has heard about his exploits. He's known as probably one of the supreme ball artists that ever came out of Tipperary. He was a man who could win a match, he could turn on a sixpence. But I'd like to tell you a little story about the courage of the man. In 1961, when Tipperary were facing Dublin, 4 weeks before the All-Ireland, this man sustained a double fracture in the right ankle. Now, that was a terrible thing for happened to a hurler. His leg was in plaster for a week, up to a week before the All-Ireland. It was a grave risk, and he himself laid his leg literally on the line. It was a terrible decision that he had to make. He had 2 pain-killing injections before he went onto the field in '61. He had 2 more pain-killing injections at the interval. John Doyle, describing this particular man, said, his worth is inestimable to Tipperary. When he came on in '58, he got the couple of points that gave the tickets to America. Now everybody is going to America. But this man has been involved with hurling since 1950. He's known as a genius. He's known as if my Spanish is correct, the Manolete of hurling. He captained Tipperary in 1965 for their All-Ireland win when John Doyle won his 8th. And I'm not giving any motor cars out when I say, to me, it's the greatest pleasure I've had for years to welcome to Carrick-on-SUIR or any other place a man who was on the team of the century, Jimmy Doyle of Hurling. Present. One of the toughest medals he had to win was in the Street League in Thurles, and he prizes that with all the great ones.
Right now, Jimmy, look, if you get acid. I got the other one. No, they won't, no. They won't. That's good enough now. You right?
Yes,
Right? I'm okay now.
Thank you very much.
I know, I'm so good.
But I'm sure you enjoyed the game, but this thing today was just got up by a couple of people who felt that Spina Bifida deserved a little bit of a, if you like to call it, a charitable donation at this time of the year. And the man who bore the heat of the day out there, he was out there for maybe an hour and a half, and Carrick's representative on the Spina Bifida committee, Jimmy Fahy. And this ad hoc committee decided that, well, looking at Carrick and its hurlers from the past, the present and the future, we have one hurler here today, and they felt that they'd like to make him a little presentation, and that hurler is none other than our own Tom Wall of 1940. Many people in high places. But he said to Jack Lynch on one occasion at a G.A.A. function, I'm from Carrick-on-SUIR. And Jack Lynch said, yes, he said, I knew 2 men in Carrick-on-SUIR. One was Willie Wall. Oh, he said, yes, he was a gentleman. The other was Tom. I couldn't walk into the Dáil for a week, says Jack, after playing on him. And actually, he remembered Tom very well. It's interesting to note, too, that the last game that Mick Mackey played, and that's going back, played against the Carrick Swan, and I'm sure Tom was playing in that game as well. Well, now, Jimmy.
On behalf of the Spina Bifida, I would like to thank everyone that supported this day here today. And most of all, Davy, Pearl and Sean Dwyer, who put all this together.
Well, as you know, that there'll be no good team without a supporter, and the committee here, as I said, they felt that somebody would follow the Tipperary theme through the muddy days of February, through the disappointments of Division 2, and all along, even to the disappointment of the league. He was always there. He was as constant, as they say, as the Northern Star, and they've picked out the man who got the tape for us here today, Dan Lynch.
I'd like to present this as Dan Lynch. And the best tip ladies
I'm the first kid now when I ever get an award in Carrick.
You may be interested to know that the commentator on the tape today was a gentleman from County Clare called Aidan Tuttle. Unfortunately, shortly after making that one, or I think the Galway game, Aidan got a massive heart attack and he died. He was a very young man. Yesterday, and on behalf of the committee, I thank you all for your attendance.
Right, Paddy.
Mr.